Perfect. So it's
I
real.
hope I'm of help.
What's
I hope
that?
I'm of help to you.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think you will be. This class has been something different. So, I'm gonna ask you just about 10 questions and just go over them with you.
You froze up. Are
Oh,
you there?
yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Might not be able to hear me. Let's see. Make sure I'm on my side. There we go. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yes. You
Sorry.
froze up there for a second. That's okay.
Yes. So it's just going to be about 10 different questions. Nothing too deep, but just some stuff that
Okay.
just will kind of read my mind back and forth.
Okay.
So I'll also be taking just a few notes, nothing crazy, but just while we're talking.
That's fine.
So what company are you a part of?
I work with Blackwell Realty.
Okay. And what's your position there?
I'm an affiliate broker. That's the technical title. It's just Peon Realtor.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, if we just started learning about brokerage and that kind of stuff. So that's,
Yeah.
I just started getting deep and kind of figuring that stuff out. So that's good. Um, and kind of what I'm doing this for is, so I'm going into finance, and this is just kind of like we're learning about different, we have to have different electives. And so there was like insurance and then real estate and then something about government-based stuff. So we are trying to figure out like what path I'm trying to go down with that.
Okay.
And how long have you been working for the company?
I've been with this brokerage for 2 years.
2 years.
I was with Antero Real Estate in Murfreesboro for 3 years before that.
Yes, ma'am. Gotcha. Gotcha. And then is Blackwell, is that in Murfreesboro as well?
They're not in, we don't have a brokerage office in Murfreesboro. We have one in Nashville, Lebanon, and Chattanooga.
Yes, ma'am. Gotcha. So I was gonna ask too, what was your career path? Like how did you end up getting back to Blackwell or to Blackwell?
Um, I started real estate after I worked for ServPro for about 4 years. I had been a stay-at-home mom for 15 years and a high school teacher for 10 before that. So
Gotcha. So you've
it
done
was a
a
natural. It. I taught marketing and economics, so I taught sales and economics also. So it was real estate's a good transition, I guess is the word I'm looking for, because I spend a lot of time explaining the economy to
yes,
people and when it's a
ma'am.
good time to buy and when it's a good time to wait and so on.
Definitely. Definitely. Gotcha. Yeah. So you've kind of done a lot of different jobs then kind of moved back and forth with some stuff.
I did. It's all been in sales though. So to me it's all in one broad field, just a different product
Yes.
along the way.
Was that kind of
Yeah.
like what you I don't know your background as far as education. Is that kind of what you went into with your major was kind of like sales?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The marketing class that I took, I mean, students had to have marketing or economics to graduate,
Yes, ma'am.
and they could either do economics for one semester or marketing for two. Whereas marketing was the more applicable use of all of the economic theory that
Hmm.
they would learn, but took it a step further and everything that happened to a product from the time it was an idea to the time it reached the consumer, which included sales and advertising and all of the same stuff that any other sales job requires. So,
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am. So my next question is, what does your daily life look like? What's your goal for every day?
the goal for every day is to typically we try to make at least 10 phone calls a day, five to people in what's called our COI, our center of influence or our sphere,
Hmm.
um, four to or a couple of calls to people I've never met before, whether it's from a phone list or referrals that other people have given me, a couple of calls to past clients,
Hmm.
and um, and then maybe a few calls to just networking, just checking in with people, see how they're doing since we last met or talked.
Okay.
So trying to do 10 phone calls a day. And lately I've been doing Lyft on the side, so I do it early morning when
Mhm.
it's not appropriate to make phone calls.
Yeah.
Like I start at 5:30, and I'll do it till about 9 or 9:30, and then I go home and do real estate stuff. So
Gotcha. Gotcha.
the
So kind of
typical day is to do those phone calls either mid-morning after people have had a chance to get their day started, or to do some in the afternoon as they're kind of pulling things together for the end of the day. But try to spend about 2 hours doing prospecting,
yes, ma'am.
where you're trying to increase that communication with people that even if they're not buying, you're building those relationships so that you can get um, hopefully a referral from them, or stay top of mind whenever they hear of someone who's buying or selling.
Hmm. And so with that, I know there's different challenges that come with that. What do you think's the most challenging part of your job?
Probably the most challenging is that not all aspects of getting a paycheck are within my control.
Hmm.
There's so much the finance that's handled by the banking institution, or the lending institution, and the underwriters and insurance people. I mean, there's so many hands in the pot in a real estate transaction. It's never just the buyer, the seller, and the realtor that brings those two together. There's a whole lot of other people in the process. Um, and being able to explain, trying to keep my client abreast of what's going on and where we are in the process, and sometimes explaining each step. But yeah, probably the most frustrating part is the fact that my paycheck doesn't really come down to my particular skill, or whether the transaction um, moves fast or slow or whatever. So I don't have any direct relation to my check. So,
Definitely.
I mean, it takes 6 to 8 weeks to get one, and it can all fall apart on the day of closing.
Yes,
So,
ma'am. Oof, yeah, and I
so
know that's probably stressful more than anything.
it is. It is.
And
It is to
so,
work for 2 months and not be able to get a check. And then I mean, even then, when you do get a sale closed, then it means you have to wait 5 days afterwards, because before all funds are transferred, and you can actually have you get a paper check in your hand, but it doesn't mean you can spend it for another 5 to 10 days most of the time. So it's just, lots of people involved.
yes,
So,
ma'am. And then in most real estate jobs, it's commission based. I'm assuming your position's
oh
very
yeah,
similar to that.
oh yeah.
I figured
And
so.
that's going to vary from brokerage to brokerage, the
Hmm.
percentage that you get of your own transactions,
Hmm.
whether you're on a team, if you're work for a brokerage that does um, a lot of times it depends, your amount of your check that you get depends on your sales experience and what kind of commission you've negotiated up front with your broker. So um, I didn't have to start at the bottom, because I had so much sales experience by the time I got into real estate. So I was able to start off getting a little more of my check than most newbies do. So
Hmm.
that was beneficial. But I mean, 0% of zero is zero. So,
Zero, that's right.
I mean, you still have to, you might get 85%, but if you're not out there generating sales, it's still going to be zero at the end of the day. So,
Yes, ma'am. Definitely. So really looking into the future, and I don't
mhm.
know how many years you plan on working in real estate, but where do you see it going in the next 10 years?
Where do I see real estate going, or my
Yes,
career?
just the industry in general.
Uh, well, we've got one change that's coming up this summer that we've kind of anticipated for the last 2 or 3 years, in that um, buyers are starting this summer. Buyers are going to have to pay their buying agent. So, whereas before seller paid the commission for both selling and buying agents, um, he paid his own realtor, and then he paid the commission for whoever sold his home. Now that's going to be changing. I don't know how many years that's been into effect, but as far as I know, I mean, I've been buying houses since 94 and sellers have always paid both commissions because buyers have to come up with so much other money for buying a home. Whereas the seller, it was in the seller's best interest to provide incentive for those buying agents to bring qualified buyers to the table. That's changing this summer. Now buyers will have to pay their own realtor, and that's going to have some pros and cons. I think we're going to see a lot of changes in the market this summer at first, and then after a while, I think as things settle down, I think we'll start seeing sellers paying commissions anyway. So I think at first it's going to be, oh yeah, buyers have to, and it's requiring us to have a buyer's agreement up front. And what that means is before I take somebody to see houses, we're going to have this agreement in paper that they sign, a contract where they're agreeing to use me as their realtor, but they're also agreeing to pay my commission in the sale. So before, they've not had to do that. They just had to come up with their closing costs or the inspection money or the appraisal money. Some of that gets added on to their final paperwork at the end of the transaction, but this is now a big chunk that's also going to be added to that. And I see that hurting first-time home buyers and some of your government loan people who struggle as it is, like whether it's FHA, VA, your veterans, some of those people that typically have not had to pay commission and still struggled with the down payment. They're going to struggle even harder now, especially your first-time home buyers. So buying agents are going to have to be more active in negotiation and make sure they're setting those clear definition of relationship of what their role is and setting up our value, making sure that the client understands, yes, I'm worth this commission because I do this, 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 and this. This is my job to you. And they have to make sure they follow through with it. It's more than just driving people around to see houses, and unlocking a door. So much more than a tour guide. And some buyers agents are going to have a hard time justifying that. So
just alongside this like future plan, do you see technology changing any of the real estate field?
Sure. We have we've seen a lot of changes just in the 5 years I've been in it. If it wasn't digital or virtual before COVID, it is now. We had done video tours and stuff before, but I've even done virtual open houses, and COVID really forced everybody's hand in that, and when we were considered necessary, so I was still showing houses, but whenever I had some downtime, I was interviewing businesses kind of like you are, asking them, how do you see this changing business going forward? And a lot of those changes that business people anticipated have happened. So I see, real estate has always been ahead of the game as far as digital and technology, because we have to meet people where they are. But we can't get too far ahead with the digital world. I saw some stats yesterday. Millennials are still the largest group that are affecting housing sales. Those are techies, so we still have to be digitally related, and realtors who don't keep up are going to be antiquated real quick. And a lot of us have struggled with doing the social media videos and stuff like that, but it's necessary. We have to meet our clients where they're at, or we're going to miss the boat totally. So I think that's going to probably be one of the bigger challenges technology wise, is that people who have been in it forever can still be successful, but they're going to have to be more proactive with the technology side of it. But as we've seen, technology, not all clients are going to be millennials, so they still have to have a firm grip on doing it the old-fashioned way. I've had some clients that do not have an email, believe it or not. I was like, you don't have an email? You don't know your password or your username? Are you kidding me? So every single piece of paper, I had to drive it across town to get it signed with a wet signature. Every single piece of paper. We have to learn to go with the flow
Right.
and meet people where they're at, whether it's advanced technology or stepping back and doing it the old fashioned way.
Mhm.
Still got to have both feet, have one foot on each side of the fence, because
Man,
not all clients are in the same place.
definitely. And
So
so going along with that, do you have like any specific story that shows the growth that you've had to go through when you first started compared to now?
um specific story. um Gosh, I'll have to think of one.
I know that's a tough one to be put on the
there's,
spot like
there's
that.
so many. I don't know. I can't. I'm not thinking of one right off the top of my head. I mean, other than the people that were the ones that I had to drive a piece of paper across town. They were probably the crankiest couple I ever had to deal with. And my broker said, Michelle, you have learned more with this. He called them the cray crays. They were Ray and Faye. And they were truly crazy. They really were. He said, I swear most realtors learn stuff in 10 years. You've learned it all with this one couple. Um, they would yell at me in person. They would tell me I didn't have enough signs out when I already had, 20 signs out. I had to step out of my comfort zone and do videos and, all kinds of self promotion, to brand myself and still be able to get um, advertising out there for their home, and trying to get them to cooperate and see that, yes, we do need to do this with the times. Um, I could tell lots of stories, but with about them. They brought me to tears more than any of my high school students. Let me put it that way. And my husband said a few times, "I can't believe you let these people talk to you like that." He was a retired veteran and PTSD, and she was this little old lady in a wheelchair that looked really sweet, but she
Mhm.
was mean as a snake. Mean as a snake. And people would tell me, um, "Oh, she's just seems so nice," and I'm like, "Don't you believe her? She's a liar." I mean, it was crazy. I know one of the stories with them. They would, every time I sold their house 4 times. They told a realtor 6 months into it, and we should have already closed on their house and been done. And they told a realtor that they wanted him to sell their house. And
Mm,
I said, "Did they tell you I've already sold it 4 times?" And he said, "4 times." And I went, "Yeah, they've sabotaged every deal." Um, and I could give you many examples, but the funniest one was the last one, that there was a lady that was looking at it, and there was a Miss Faye babysat kids in her home,
mm,
and from her wheelchair. And she had this one little section of the house that she kept the kids in. There was a fireplace there that she had toys blocking it. And we had to uncover the fireplace when people were coming to look at the home. We uncovered it, or they had the instructions to uncover it. And I would usually give them a checklist: make sure the toilet lids are down, all the lights are on, window, curtains open, blah, blah, blah. And don't be there when the people come look at the house. So they weren't, and their realtor walked through, but this lady did not believe the seller when he said that he had a key to the fireplace. And when she found it on top of the mantle, she took it with her. And I said, "Who does that? Who takes the key with her?" She was afraid the owner was going to lose the key. Now,
mhm.
granted, he is a little crazy. But I told him, "Ray, this is why you should have been gone before she got here."
Exactly.
Because then she saw how crazy he is, and she took the key because she thought it. And it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it was huge. The hoopla that we had to go through to get her to bring that key back. And my seller was there at the mailbox when she brought it back to put it in the mailbox. So then it was this big fight. It was a lot of real estate is just babysitting grown adult tantrums.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
that's why I would never be a broker or in charge of a brokerage. You're babysitting a whole bunch of adults that can't play well in the sandbox together.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's a lot of what real estate is,
Fair.
babysitting adults in the sandbox. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, the, her realtor had to force her to come back and bring the key back and put it in the mailbox. And then Mr. Ray wouldn't sell the house to her. It was crazy. Yeah. So with
Yeah,
these
that's
people, I was
something.
negotiating deals on the subway in Washington, D.C., and she would sabotage them at inspection or when people came to do the final walkthrough. It was nuts,
Yeah, that's
but
that's something else.
it was a very hard earned $3,000.
Yes, ma'am.
It
Yes,
wasn't worth
ma'am.
it. Wasn't worth it. But
So my last question for you is,
okay.
what advice do you have for someone that's entering the field?
Um, do more than real estate school. The real estate school really just prepares you for the test. I did coaching right out the gate with in my first year, and I highly recommend doing the coaching. Having someone there that tells you this is what the typical day looks like, this is what you need to do, and holding you accountable to it. When you're self-employed, it's very easy to be your own worst employee.
Mhm.
You end up doing things that you would never tolerate from someone else. But when you're your own boss, if you don't do them, it's not going to get done.
Right.
So having that self-discipline and um, it's very helpful to have a coach. Coaching's expensive,
Mhm.
but I did it as long as coaching paid for itself. I stuck with it. Um, and when I could specifically say, okay, I sold that house because I would not have met that guy from Arizona had we both not been at that sales edge meeting that
Mhm.
we were at. Um, yes, that's $11,000 I made off of that house. Coaching paid for itself that year. Coaching was a little over $7,000 a year. Um, so making sure that I could specifically tie a sale to the coaching kind of helped me justify the expense, but also made me do the homework because I was paying a lot of money for that coach.
Right.
And if you don't do what they tell you to do, then why are you there? So the coaching was
Gotcha.
very beneficial, and I highly recommend that to anybody who's getting into real estate. Um, if there's a second income in your household, that's helpful because real estate is very expensive to get into. People don't realize all the fees and memberships and um, licensure things and continuing education that you have to do. It's a whole lot more expensive than you think it is.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
having your own website, buying your own business cards, buying your own signs, all of the advertising, if you pay for any stuff on social media or whatever, that comes out of your pocket. So it's expensive, and you've got to make sure that you're justifying your expenses with the activity you're doing to generate those sales.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Well, I believe that's all I have. I thank you very much for
okay. You're
helping me
welcome.
out with this.
You're
And
welcome.
if I have anything else that comes to mind, am I good just to send you a text or call or anything like
Oh
that?
yeah. Oh
Yes,
yeah. Definitely.
yes, ma'am.
And
Perfect. Well,
if Steve Jernigan there in Manchester is another good source to talk to.
yes, ma'am.
So,
Yes, I have a friend that works up there, and she's like the front office person,
at
and
Coffee
she's
County.
also mentioned that. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
might stop by his office one day and try to get one with him
Yeah.
as
Yeah. He has a whole lot more experience than I do.
well.
He
Hmm.
was my realtor when we sold our house there in Manchester.
Gotcha.
Um, good guy. Good guy.
Yes, ma'am. And that's Miss Jernigan's husband, correct?
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
okay?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
So
It sure is.
I have some relation there then.
Yeah, you do.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, thank you
Well,
very
give
much.
give your parents a hug and tell them I said hi.
Will do. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very
All
much for
right.
all
All
this.
right, sir. You're welcome. I hope it was helpful.
Yes, ma'am. Have a good night.
You too. Bye bye.